Brooklyn, Miami, Boston, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Phoenix? Who's next? Who's next? Because this Pistons team keeps leaving a mark on the biggest teams in the NBA. They don't care. They just clearly do not care who's in their wake, particularly if teams above 500 decide to come into Detroit or even on the road. It really doesn't matter, but particularly when they come into Detroit and think they're coming away with an easy win against the worst team in the NBA, oh, this is an easy win, boys. No, it's just simply not, because now 6 wins against 6 of the best teams in the NBA, and the Pistons continue to just dominate against the biggest and best teams. So I thought, why not make a video on how the Pistons are doing currently and how they've done to start the season? Because although their record suggests, like I mentioned, they're the worst team in the NBA, we all know that they're a bit better than people would give them credit for. And I think when they win 6 games against 6 very good different oppositions, it suggests to me that they're exactly what we think they are. They're a scrappy team that aren't afraid to go down to the wire and then come out with a big result against a big team. I don't want to hear this, we didn't have Anthony Davis, we didn't have Kevin Durant. I'm like, yeah, okay, neither did we. Like, your team doesn't want to face us. Your favorite team does not want to face the Detroit Pistons. Let me spell it out for you. Your favorite team, or if you're a Pistons fan, which is a lot of us, your friend's favorite team does not want to face the Detroit Pistons. It's just the reality. I heard there was no reason for Kevin Durant to sit out, apart from the Nets actually being cautious because they thought trying to guard Josh Jackson and Jerami Grant could cause a re-injury. That's what I heard. It's just a rumor. I also heard Joel Embiid sat out because, well, they didn't want to try and see him box out against Isaiah Stewart. Another rumor, but it seems to add up. All these star players, or they're just sitting against the Pistons. No, they're not resting. They're scared. And, I mean, it shows up because clearly teams are struggling against the Pistons, but I can hear the people already saying, you guys are the worst team in the NBA, you just got lucky against a few games because we didn't have Anthony Davis, all of this stuff. Like, here's your tissue. I don't actually have a tissue. I'm not going to get a tissue for this thing, but like, here's your tissue. Just wipe your tears, wipe them away. The Detroit Pistons took your team down. Like, it's the reality. It just happens. And don't be ashamed, because it's happened to a number of other teams and a number of other players, and it's going to continue to happen throughout the season because they're just that kind of team. Once they get Killian Hayes back, Isaiah Stewart's now starting to hit threes. Saddiq Bey doesn't miss a shot all game against the Brooklyn Nets. Dennis Smith Jr. is going to start dunking on people. Cade Cunningham next season. Jerami Grant takes another leap as a playmaker and as a defensive player. Ooh-wee. Yeah, the Pistons are here to stay, and it's just good to watch. Now, if you made it through the first couple of minutes of the video, if you could drop a like on it, it really does help out how the video performs. And subscribing to the channel, if you're a Pistons fan, I make Pistons content pretty regularly. Also make NBA content of all teams. It's free, it really does help out. It would be much appreciated. But anyways, getting back on topic, I think why the Pistons have been able to win so many games, on a serious note, because obviously I was partially joking. You're going to have to figure out which parts of the thing I was joking about, because some of the things I was talking about, obviously I was dead serious. But I think with the Pistons, this is a team that doesn't get blown out, and some of that credit has to go to Coach Casey. You've got to give him some credit. Sometimes you question his rotations, sometimes you question some of the offensive sets, but clearly this team wants to play for him because there's a reason that this team never gets blown out. There's been multiple games where they're down by 15, 20 at the half, and they come back. They bring it back to single digits late in the game. Against the Utah Jazz, I remember. Against the Phoenix Suns, they came back and actually won the game. Against the Lakers, they forced a double overtime after being down by more than double digits. These are against good teams, and they're forcing them down to the wire, where most teams at this position that the Pistons are in would just fold. There's not many teams that have had less 20-point losses than Detroit. I think they've only had 2, maybe 3, which is pretty impressive for a team that has lost 18 games to have only lost pretty much in like a blowout 3 times or 2 times. And it just shows the fight this team has. And you've got to give a lot of credit to Casey and Troy Weaver as well, who said he wanted to come in and bring in players who are willing to fight and try to win games, which they're doing. That's perfect. Try to win games, don't actually win games. Now, kind of staying with the Dwayne Casey theme, a player that seems to be mentioned with Dwayne Casey a lot is Sekou Doumbouya. And I thought I'd just talk about him briefly because I've seen some people grow impatient. I know most people realize that he was a project coming into the league. He's still a project now. He's only 20 years of age. He was one of the youngest draft prospects, and he started playing basketball at like 15 years of age. Like, he was never going to be good 2 years into the league, particularly on a team that's struggling, and he's got a lot of competition as well, which you have to consider. He's going up against the likes of Saddiq Bey, who's older than Sekou by quite a bit. Josh Jackson, older as well, obviously. You've then got Jerami Grant and Blake Griffin. Obviously, ideally, these young players are taking Blake Griffin's minutes, but it's not an ideal world, and he's still got to get minutes because you just can't really sit Blake Griffin. I think with Sekou, you have to worry about things that he does well, just the glimpses, because you're not looking at a player that is going to be polished, like I mentioned. So just look at a few things that he's doing well. And he's improved his defense. I think he looks a bit more locked in on defense, doesn't get as lost as much. He's still a very inconsistent scorer, but I think he does have a jump shot that will translate. Some drives, like to the rim, he looks fantastic. He steps through someone, he does a spin move, and then he just misses. He just misses an easy layup, and I think that'll improve as time goes on, as he gets used to the contact, or as he gets used to actually having the open rim to look at, because sometimes it looks like he's surprised that he actually gets to the rim, if you know what I mean. Like, he'll put on a move and he'll just be expecting contact, or he'll be expecting someone to block it, and he's actually got an open lane, or sometimes he will get blocked. So it's just a few things that are kind of not right there, but you do see the glimpses, and he's 20 years of age. Let's not get out of control. We've seen some players not be afforded the luxury of time in a Detroit uniform recently. Chris Middleton, and all of a sudden they go to another team and become all-stars. Spencer Dinwiddie, So, like, let's just give him some time, particularly for a lottery pick. Like, come on now. Now, someone who actually has had time to develop and has developed over multiple teams and over multiple years is Jerami Grant, going back to the Trust the Process 76ers. Now, all of a sudden, he's an all-star. I'm not saying this as a Pistons fan. He is an all-star. I mean, there isn't too much more that could be said about Jerami Grant, but all we do know is nothing he's doing is a fluke. He's just so good at getting to the rim. He's so consistent at getting to the rim. He's going to continue to get more foul calls, because there's still some calls that if he was a superstar in this league, he would get more consistently. He's getting a little bit more consistently nowadays. I can remember back to the start of the season where he was just getting absolutely hacked consistently and would not get any calls. Now he's getting a few more, but basically Grant is so good because he's a 3-level scorer. He's so dangerous attacking the rim that defenders always give him just that little bit of room, which allows him to get his three-point shot off, and that's why his three-point shot is so consistent, because he's never really under too much pressure. He plays within his limitations. Someone will just set a high screen, and then he'll kind of just move out of the way. A defender will just be maybe a foot off him, and he'll just raise over them. He's got that length. He's got that ability to hit a set shot three. And then attacking the rim, his change of pace, his change of direction, getting to the rim. He's just a good scorer, but he's added a few moves to his arsenal as well. Now he's becoming more of a playmaker, which was the next step in his development. The first 9 games of the season, he only recorded more than 2 assists twice. Since then, over the next 15 games, he's had multiple 5 and 6 assist games and averaged around 4 assists as a whole over those last 15 games, which is pretty damn impressive considering in Denver, he did no playmaking at all. He didn't do any isolation scoring. He didn't do any of this. So for him to make this kind of jump already, it suggests to me maybe there's another gear to go, because he seems to be getting better every single game. I mean, we just saw him take a full-strength Lakers to a double OT. I know he wasn't the only player performing, but he was the main guy behind that, and he just continues to get better. I mean, he's only averaging 1.5 turnovers a game, which again is ridiculous. 1.5 turnovers a game when you consider for him to have this usage rate and for him to be making so many consistent plays, and he's not turning the ball over, coming from a team where he just wasn't trusted with the ball in his hands, and now all of a sudden he's not really making those errors that you would normally expect when someone's thrusted into this kind of position. Everything Jerami Grant is doing it's impressive. I didn't expect this, I'll be honest. I liked the signing. I thought he'd be like a 16 to 18 point per game guy who shot the 3 ball solidly and played good defense. Well, just add an extra 5 or 6 points onto that and some playmaking, and you've got a number 1 option, an all-star level player. What a guy. What a guy, Jerami Grant. How can you not like him? Someone that some people don't exactly like at the moment, Blake Griffin. What can I say about Blake Griffin? He's getting his cardio in. That's probably what we'll leave it at, because there's not too much nice to say about Blake at the moment, let's be honest. Now, there's probably only one more player that you want to hear my opinion on. Rodney McGruder. Okay, Rodney McGruder, so he's interesting. He's getting about 5 minutes. No, okay, I'm joking. But seriously, you guys probably just want to hear about the young guys. And we've got Big Deke Bey. I mean, what else can we say about Big Deke Bey? He just came off a flawless night against the Brooklyn Nets. 5 of 5, 3 of 3. I don't know if those stats are even right, but he hit 15 points and didn't miss a shot. With Saddiq, He's exactly what we expected. He's someone who can knock the three ball down well. He's kind of tailed off after a blazing start to the season, but I still know he's going to be a consistent 38 to 42% shooter throughout his career. I can just expect it to happen. He's someone that shoots the three ball well. He's still adding moves to his arsenal, and he's not as confident getting to the rim or making those mid-range pull-up jumpers as he was in college, but I see signs that potentially going forward, he could still develop that. Like, he's still got it in his bag. He's just got to be more confident, and he's got to be more comfortable beating guys off the dribble or just making that shot. So I'm not giving up on his development, but at the very least, we've got someone who's going to be a good defender and a good three-point shooter, which is valuable in the league. And with the 19th pick in the draft, you can't complain, but I still think there's more upside to Saddiq Bey. He could be more than just a 3-and-D guy, which some people have him pinned to be. And then obviously Isaiah Stewart. I mean, what else can we say about big Isaiah Stewart? He hit his first three ball. He's shooting around 68% from the line, which suggests to me, like, his stroke looks alright. It's not like Andre Drummond's levels where it's just like, put that away, burn my eyes, bleach my eyes. I never want to see that again. It's not that level of stroke. Like, it's a decent stroke. I'm not going to say stroke any more times because that sounds a little bit strange, but anyways, he's got a decent shooting form, and everything else Isaiah Stewart is doing well. I mean, he switched onto Chris Paul. Like, he switched onto Chris Paul and forced, was it a turnover? Or forced a late shot? I forget, but either way, he switched onto Chris Paul. He switched onto other smalls and done a good job. He then can also body bigs. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, only playing like 17 minutes a night, which is absurd. That is so good. Fantastic rebounder. He's just got hustle, really, and he's got some skill as well, and some physical traits that suggest to me maybe he's going to be the modern day kind of 5. Who knows? He looks like another good draft pick. Josh Jackson as well. We've talked about him briefly, but it's all about the three-point shot. It's just, it opens up the game for him. It makes his game more efficient. And if he's hitting a three-point shot, it means he can get to the rim more effectively. It means Jerami Grant can get to the rim more effectively because players can't sag off on Josh Jackson. That's been the difference making in his points over the last 5 or so games. He's been knocking down his three-point shot. He's showing some better signs as a playmaker. We know he's a good energy defender, and he's someone that makes some significant plays on the defensive end of the floor, which reminds you why he was a 4th overall pick. I don't think there's much else to say about the Pistons so far this season, apart from just wipe your tears if you're a fan of a top 6 team, because just be prepared. The Pistons are going to come into your arena and just going to spray you out and wipe the floor with you. It's that simple. That's what Detroit does against top teams. They don't worry about beating bottom teams. Like, what do they need to prove? They've already proven everything they can, which is when they want to, they're going to beat top teams, but they don't want to because they want to get Cade Cunningham.